Hey, this is Jamie from Capsule Computers, and today we are reviewing Battlefield Hardline. Back in 2012, Visceral Games got this crazy idea that they should make a Battlefield game. Pretty crazy idea considering the franchise has been traditionally handled by DICE. So with the proposal of creating a cops and robbers take on the venerable military franchise, Visceral Games went ahead and developed Battlefield Hardline. The single-player campaign is probably the best in the entire Battlefield franchise. It adds some solid new stealth mechanics and actually designs the levels to let players choose to stealth through most of the game. The game is inspired by cop shows on TV and is fittingly set in Los Angeles and Miami. The only thing missing is New York City, and you got TV's golden trifecta of settings. Visceral Games scored a star-studded cast of TV actors to provide their voice and likenesses to the characters in the single-player game. The small touches like the camera angles and starting every and ending every single-player session with previously on Hardline and next time on Hardline really tie the package together nicely. The writing for the single-player is solid, as Visceral mixes an intense plot with some great comedic relief. The multiplayer is definitely the biggest part of a Battlefield game, and it's also Hardline's weakest component. The 4 Battlefield classes have been revamped with a lot of their gadgets from the previous 2 Frostbite Battlefields shuffled around. The Assault class has been renamed to Operator and has seen some changes that I hope that they keep in Battlefield 5. They stripped out the grenade launcher, which puts a greater focus on healing and revival abilities. Unfortunately, the Recon class, now known as a Professional, has also probably received some worse changes. They are now only able to use designated marksman rifles and sniper rifles, and have completely lost their spawn beacons to the Engineer/Mechanic class, which makes teamplay Recon toting an SMG a complete thing of the past. The game is really focused on infantry combat. As a result, most of the vehicles are meant for transportation unless you feel like poking your head out with your personal weapon and firing at things. Losing the vehicle combat is also losing what makes Battlefield really a unique experience, and kind of makes Battlefield Hardline feel more like a generic shooter, unfortunately. The new game modes are a bit of a hit and miss. The most commonly played new modes are Hotwire and Blood Money. Hotwire is billed as this high-speed conquest mode, but unfortunately it's pretty bland. A bunch of cars serve as conquest points and spawn around on the map, and players gotta hop in and drive at high speeds to begin acquiring points. I think the general hope that it was going to result in some really intense vehicle chases, but in reality it plays more like this. Fight your way to the car, kill off your enemies, get in the car, drive around the edges of the map like you're trying to get to work in the morning until you hit an ambush and then blow up. Unfortunately, fighting to the car is actually way more interesting than driving around in it. Blood Money is a little bit better with 2 teams fighting over a pile of cash. Players can either fight over the central pile or just bust into the enemy's vault and steal points. It's a pretty neat idea, but unfortunately the game usually boils into a team deathmatch at the center of the map. Heist is a slight twist on the classic rush mode, with robbers trying to bring the loot back into the base after they bomb the point. It's a shame that the 2 most interesting modes in Battlefield Hardline are also the 2 least played. Crosshair and Rescue modes are both one life, no respawn type games, which probably explains why it's not very popular. Crosshair will have players trying to protect a player-controlled VIP, while the Rescue mode will have police trying to rescue one of 2 hostages and then run those hostages back to their base. It's a refreshing but unfortunately unpopular take on the franchise. Of course, the old-school team deathmatch and conquest modes are still in Battlefield Hardline. As much as I've been complaining about Battlefield Hardline's multiplayer, there are some bright spots. For me, I found the netcode to be a vast improvement over its predecessors. In fact, a lot of Visceral's fixes will be finding their way into Battlefield 4 in the near future. Additionally, Visceral's implementation of the commander mode is nearly perfect. Instead of issuing orders that are almost always ignored, hackers now actually have the ability to just give points of interest to their squad, which shows up on their HUD. If the squad actually investigates a point of interest, then the bonus points are dished out. If not, no harm, no foul. Commanders no longer have to go through the disappointing and frustrating exercise of issuing an order that's going to be ignored only to watch a squad carry out the same order and then cheating the commander out of the points. As a person who's actually played the commander mode quite a bit in Battlefield 4, that was possibly the most frustrating and annoying thing. Additionally, the new focus on hackers battling for key resource points on the map to help their team and hinder the enemy keeps the competition between 2 hackers at a good and consistent level throughout the game. The only thing I would ask is for some better controls in the hacker mode, preferably something a little more familiar to RTS players. I'm also a huge fan of the new weapon unlock system. Instead of farming out points as a class to unlock a class's weapons and gadgets, players accrue a general currency that can be spent on buying weapons or gadgets. Some weapons are locked to certain factions, so kills need to be farmed out to unlock the ability to use the gun with the other faction, just like weapon accessories. I like this system because it gives players more flexibility to just jump right into the game with their favorite guns or build a class that reflects their playstyle sooner instead of farming out endless points with a class or gun they may not be particularly fond of. I give Battlefield Hardline 7 capsules out of 10, as Battlefield Hardline is a solid and satisfying single-player game. Hats off to Visceral Games for finally giving Battlefield a single-player campaign it deserves. If you're a huge fan of infantry-only servers on Battlefield 4, or just hate playing against tanks and jets, Battlefield Hardline is probably the Battlefield title you've been waiting for. However, for me, the multiplayer just misses the mark as it feels a little hollow and a bit generic, especially compared to the previous Battlefield titles. Now, if you want to read more about the Battlefield Hardline, do check out the written review. A link can be found in the description and in the video's card. So I hope to see you soon. This is Jamie from Capsule Computers, signing off.